Hello, everybody. We are continuing on with our talk about energy efficiency. Right below me, energy efficiency. As of our last video, we made it up to slide number 19 right here. And we've talked about reusable resources being used for homes, such as straw bales, as in 14, a living roof, overhangs with regard to sunlight coming into your house during the summer and the winter. We talked about energy efficiency of using different types of insulations. Okay, you're painting your indoor wall colors a different color. So all of these ways will improve energy efficiency. So let's continue on today, talking a little bit more about energy efficiency and what we can do to improve it. So using renewable solar energy to provide heat and electricity. Okay, so Denmark now gets 20% of its electricity from wind and plans to increase this to 50% by 2030. So hoping to ramp up and use the renewable resource of wind for energy to essentially cover half of their energy needs. Brazil gets 20% of their gasoline from their sugarcane residue. And in fact, Brazil's major export is the sugarcane residue. They use that for a lot of their um, resources, heating needs. And in 2004, kind of back there a little bit, the world's renewable energy industries provided at least 1.7 million jobs. So you can imagine the increase that that's brought from 2004 all the way up to 2020 and the amount of jobs that's created. So not only are we looking at using and distancing ourselves from non-renewable energy, going more towards renewable energy, but we're also creating jobs and economic boost for this. So remember, in those FRQs, when we talk about economic value and environmental value, okay, this deals with the economic value, producing those extra jobs. All right, let's keep moving on. So renewable energy in the United States, again, the majority of it is due to hydroelectric, and it seems kind of weird. We would think we want to go more towards solar or wind. And in fact, that's not the case. Not all areas are created equal on Earth. Think about this. Sunlight, wind, tidal energy, those are resources, just like our oil, just like gold and silver and humans and animals and vegetation. These are all resources. Well, renewable forms of energy are resources as well. If an area doesn't have a river going through it, you're not going to get hydroelectricity. If an area doesn't have a good degree of sunlight, or if it doesn't receive sunlight for a good majority of the year, you're not really going to get a lot of energy due to due to solar energy there. If an area doesn't receive a lot of wind power is not going to be a good idea. So you're really basing your renewable energy needs off of the area in which you live. We've pretty much in the United States tapped out the amount of hydroelectricity that we could draw from. We've pretty much set up dams on all of our major rivers, and there really aren't that many left. However, when we get into hydroelectric power, we'll talk about these things called micro turbines, and what they are small little turbines that can be placed in larger numbers in smaller rivers to generate electricity. Moving on, solar energy. Now we will, I promise, get into all these main ones. Solar energy, we will talk about wind energy, we will talk about geothermal, biomass, tidal. We will talk about all of these in greater depth just as soon as we get through energy efficiency. But when we talk about solar energy, as we said in the past, we talk about two major types. We talk about passive solar design and active solar design. And what passive solar design is it is painting your house a certain color to absorb or not absorb heat energy. It is insulating your home. It is providing an overhang so that sun can come in the winter or shade can be cast in the summer. It is planting a shade tree. It is having a green roof. You're using the sun in an indirect way to either keep you warm, I know it sounds weird, but keep you cool, or even generate warm water through a passive solar design hot water heater. Active solar, on the other hand, looks at actually charging a piece of metal, exciting those electrons to create the flow of electricity or the movement of electrons. So when you think about solar panels, we're talking about active solar design. When you think about solar hot water heaters, or insulation. We're talking about passive solar design. Now, we talk about solar energy. We want to kind of bring down the use of fossil fuels, bring up the use of biomass, wind, and hydroelectric. These are all different ways that we can use renewable forms of energy. Solar energy continued. When we talk about it is a resource, just like any other resource, meaning it is not the same all around the world or even all around the US. We talk about latitudes. Where are you in terms of latitude? We talk about seasons. Are you receiving a lot of sunlight? Maybe 2, 3 seasons out of 4. Time of the day, when is your sun the highest? When will it cast the most intense sunlight, the most intense rays? Weather. If there are clouds out, you're not getting the maximum amount of sunlight to your solar panels or to your hot water heaters. Excuse me, I have an itchy nose. Now, less than 1% of the world's electricity needs depend on solar energy. And as you know, cost. Once these things are up and running, it is a great form of renewable energy. However, to actually assemble these, to get the material out to where it needs to be assembled, it costs a lot of money. It is a major economic pressure, okay? It does employ a lot of jobs, which is great, but at the same time, it uses a large amount of resources, precious metals, and it is very expensive. If you're looking at adding solar panels on your home, you're looking at roughly 20 years before they actually will start to pay you back. So really, you can get solar panels now, and in 20 years, you'll just start to see those returns. So they do cost a lot, quite a bit upfront. Active solar, solar panels, passive solar, we're talking about using the sun for heat energy. Face your home towards the south. That's the warmest part, most direct sun rays. Use some materials that absorb the heat and re-release it at night. If you're talking about building a greenhouse, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take these big 55-gallon drums, these plastic drums. They'll paint them black, they'll fill them with water, they'll put them on the southern facing wall of your greenhouse. And what they will do is they will absorb the heat during the day and then re-release it at night. So it will act to keep your greenhouse at a pretty consistent temperature. Stone will hold heat. Cement will hold heat. Okay, insulation is key. One of the best insulators out there is actually the denim. I know I've mentioned this before, but the denim, what your pants are made of, your jeans, those are wonderful insulators. Fiberglass insulators, foam insulators. Okay, all of these, what you're doing, you are keeping in the heat in the winter, and you're also keeping the heat out in the summer, or keeping in the coolness in the summer. They're twofold. They're like a thermos, right? A thermos will keep cold drinks cold and hot drinks hot. It works on that air barrier, that insulation of air. Moving on, how do we increase energy efficiency? How do we use the solar design? Solar ovens. Now, question for you, is this passive solar design or active solar design? I'll let you think this one over for a second. Hello, just teaching my class. Bye-bye. So, if you guessed passive solar design, you are correct, okay? We're not exciting any electrons here. We're not creating electricity. What we're doing is we're simply heating food, okay? We're cooking food using the heat from the sun. We're reflecting those rays to concentrate them on a central point and cook food. This is passive solar design. Heating buildings and water with solar energy, again, all passive solar design. We're looking at that overhang. That is key. That is big. When the sun is high in the summer, it casts shade. When it's lower in the winter, it allows the sunlight in. This here is a solar hot water heater. What a lot of people will do, they essentially set it up as a radiator. They'll pipe the water through almost like a radiator. And where the radiator on your car passes through the, where air passes through the radiator on your car to cool water, in this case right here, the water will circulate through and it'll spend a maximum amount of time in the sun where it will heat up. And as it heats up, it'll come down into this hot water tank, and then it will increase the temperature of your water so much that the general hot water heater will not have to work as hard to bring your temperature up. Okay, this is just aiding your hot water heater. Continuing to move on, we're looking at, again, more passive solar design, using overhangs again, using insulated windows, insulation in the walls. What this diagram actually shows, which is pretty cool, is these air transfers. So think about this. The ground is always a constant temperature, around 40 degrees. So if your ground here is 40 degrees, in the summertime, that air will move up this way, hot air will rise, it will continue to move up, and will be expelled there. As it's expelled, it almost creates this giant convection current out, outside, back down under, inside your house, back outside, so on and so on. And it'll create this little vacuum. And what happens is that cool air is sucked in. And as it's sucked in, you're almost getting like a central air. You're getting air conditioning. As the air moves through the earth tube, it's cooled. Because remember, you could be 80, 90 degrees out here, but that ground temperature is still around 40, 45. So it's going to cool that air. So you're getting essentially cool air. Now in the summertime, you could in the wintertime, you could shut that off, and you can try and hold in as much warm air as possible, because when that sun comes down, it's going to heat your house, and you're going to close these off and try and keep and harness that warm air in there. But in the summertime, you have central air. Again, this is another way of looking at it. In the wintertime, when you're looking to try and keep as much warm air as you can inside, you have a greenhouse attached. That greenhouse will heat up due to those insulating windows, that sun ray coming in. The warm air will rise, pass in the house. The cool air will come back out. It'll be warmed again, and you have this convection current. Warm air rising, replacing the cool air in the house. Cool air is going back out to the greenhouse, getting warmed again, coming back inside. And you can see here we have this damper, we have this door that can be closed. Again, all passive solar designs. And my favorite, this is where I wish I could live, in the ground. So this is why earth-dwelling animals have it so great, okay? They keep the coolness of the earth in the summer when it's really hot outside. They have all of this cool area. And when it's really cold outside, again, it's staying at 40 degrees. So it may be 20, 30 degrees outside, below zero, but you have the warmth of the earth. It's perfect. It keeps you cool in the summer, it keeps you warm in the winter. It's awesome. We should all be groundhogs and live in the ground. I'm just saying. All right, let's keep moving on. So we're almost there, almost done for today. Let's see, I'll bring you along with me. Let's see, are we almost done for today? Yeah, a little bit. We're gonna go a couple more slides, guys. So looking at this slide, we see the advantages and disadvantages of passive and active solar heating. Remember, the advantages: energy is free, net energy is moderate, meaning we do get a lot of sunlight, quick installation, no CO2 emissions, very low air and water pollution, moderate cost, not too bad if you're looking more at the passive. On the trade-offs, the disadvantages, it is if we're talking about active solar design, there's a lot of technology involved, and it can be very expensive. If we're talking about, maybe it's I'm looking outside right now, maybe it is a cloudy day, there's not going to be a lot of sun. So the amount of energy you're harnessing, you're taking in that day could be lower, could be substantially lower. Maybe you live in a climate that doesn't have sun for a good part of the year. It's more or less dusk, right? Alaska, higher latitudes. Maybe you live in an area that doesn't experience a good angle of inclination, an angle that the sun is shining on you. So there are pluses and minuses. As with everything in this class, you need to be able to argue the pluses and the minuses for every topic there is, okay? You need to be able to pick both sides and argue those and explain your reasoning. Always, always, always very important. Let's continue moving on. We're still talking about this energy efficiency. Okay, reducing energy waste and improving energy efficiency. Way back when, we talked about this thing that we discussed was not coevolution, but using energy twice. We generate the electricity, and then we take that steam, and it's still very hot, and we pipe it through the buildings to heat the buildings. Can you guys remember what that was called? Because I can't right off the bat. Cogeneration, there it is, cogeneration. We talked about generating the electricity first and using it. That's kind of like an active type of generation. Then we talked about moving that steam through the pipes of the warehouse, of the generation plant, and using that as a secondary source for heating. That's kind of your passive generation. If we can get more of this double, triple type of use for energy, that's going to improve our energy efficient by a lot. Okay. Let's take a quick look at this diagram. We see a lot of our energy inputs, 85%, are non-renewable, the fossil fuels, the coal, the petroleum, the natural gas. A smaller amount are the non-renewable nuclear, the hydroelectric, geothermal, wind and solar, and your biomass. And then we can see our outputs. The majority of it is going towards unnecessary energy waste. And what the unnecessary energy waste could be classified as is transmission in electricity lines. As you're moving from a generating station to your home, that electricity is traveling through all of these lines. It is losing electricity due to friction in the lines. Going from very, very large lines to very small lines coming in your house, or downscaling. Every time it goes through a transformer, those big drums on the telephone poles outside your home, it is stepping down. It is losing electricity. When you turn on a light, right? I have lights above me. Turn on this light. Boom. That's generating heat. Okay, that heat is wasting electricity. If we could somehow get our get our waste as low as possible, we're going to get that maximum EROEI, energy return on energy investment. Say with me again, EROEI. I don't want you guys to remember to not remember the soil either, right? What are the soil horizons? OA, EBCR. Remember those. Hopefully you smiled a little bit. Continuing to move on, we're almost done for today, guys. I promise. I know this was a lot, but we just talked about heat due to light. Okay, incandescent light bulbs. Those are the old style light bulbs. Let me see if I can go get you one. Hold on one second. Copy this down. Hey, I'm back, guys. Your old style incandescent light bulbs have a filament inside, okay? And those release a lot of heat. If this were on, you wouldn't be able to touch it. It'd be way too hot, okay? So what do? We go towards an LED light, and those don't release a lot of heat, pretty much none at all. And if this were running, you could still touch this, okay? These release 95% of heat. So we're losing 95% of our electricity, which means we're only really getting 5% of what we're putting in to this bulb as a whole. Okay, think about that. How much is lost? Internal combustion engines, the engines in your vehicle, 94% of fuel is wasted. It's not burned completely. Exhaust, heat, sound, vibrations, okay, all of those are wasting the electricity. Nuclear power plants, 92% of energy is wasted through nuclear fuel energy needed for waste management. Think about those small pellets and how much energy they give us. Now think about, we're wasting about 90% of it. Imagine if we could harness all of that in one of those little pellets. Those pellets would last us forever. Coal burning power plants, you know those are the dirtiest of all non-renewable energy sources. And those, they waste so much energy. If we're going to use non-renewable, we want to push towards the natural gas. All right, so solutions reducing energy waste, what do? We go towards CFLs, okay? We go towards LED lights, okay? We want to reduce our reduce our demand on non-renewable energy sources. We want to create local jobs with regard to renewable energy sources. We want to phase in renewable energy. We want to prolong fossil fuel supplies as long as we can by using them the least amount that we can. Okay? Almost there, boys and girls. So ways to improve this energy efficiency. We talk about saving energy and money by producing both heat and electricity. Cogeneration. Heat and electricity from the same source. I mean, If I could somehow harness the heat from this and use it in a way, maybe to cook my soup, to heat my coffee up, then hey, that's great. This is not 95% loss of energy anymore. Now it's maybe only 60% or 50 because I'm using it for light and I'm using it to heat as well. Ding. But if we can't harness that, then it's no good. Industry accounts for about 42% of US energy consumption, so a little bit under half. Cogeneration, that is a big deal for us. And we could save energy in transportation by increasing fuel efficiency of vehicles, using electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, hybrid vehicles, and also just carpooling, okay? But don't carpool now, okay? We want to social distance. We want to keep apart. And then let's see, how much more do we want to go for today? I think we will do 2 more slides for today, guys. 2 more slides. Ways to improve energy efficiency continued. We looked at this. We see that our best fuel efficient vehicles are your smaller vehicles, your cars, your pickups and vans are lower. No surprise there. Inflation, we've talked about this inflation a whole bunch of time. When we talked about price of water, we talked about prices of gasoline. We've talked about prices of lumber, okay, other resources. They are all price inflated, which means you're not paying the true amount, okay? It's inflated by the government to absorb part of the price. So we talked about how can we conserve what we can pay the total price. You're not really paying the total price, okay? So how can we improve energy efficiency? Maybe by paying the total price to where we feel it more in our pockets, right? The money. So we're not using or wasting as much. So, one more slide. So without inflation, gas would be around $11 a gallon. Right now, I think I just went to the gas station a couple days ago. I paid like $1.83. Could you imagine paying $11 a gallon? You guys wouldn't be probably driving around that much, okay? So I want you to think about all this stuff. When we come back for our next PowerPoint set of notes, we're going to talk about a little bit more on energy efficiency, fuel cells, hydrogen fuel cells. Then we're going to get into these renewable forms of energy. I'll have some more bookwork for you guys, and we will go from there. So I hope you guys are all being safe. I hope you enjoyed these notes as much as you can enjoy notes. And take care. Email me with any questions, and I will see you guys. This is Fabianski, out.